When talking about Japanese anime, will Hayao Miyazaki appear to be the first to come to your mind? Under the creativity of Hayao Miyazaki, we can see nature, war, magic, life, and countless distinctive female characters. His animation is not just for children, it also has a great deal of deep concern for humanity and society. Miyazaki excels at capturing the beauty of women. His childhood experience and affection for his mother influence his preference for female characters to some extent. He never appears to hide his fondness for women. Without exception, every one of his movies features strong female protagonists. He has warriors, country girls, laborers, witches, single mothers, and so on and so forth. Just as he stated, any woman is just as capable of being a hero as any man. He portrays their own strength in the films because this is their actual self, not a contrived persona created to appeal to the audience and economic market. The features of female characters shown in Miyazaki's works can be split into 3 periods based on his creative development history: early stage, heyday, and to the last stage. So let's start from the early period. After World War II, Japan launched an era of exploration of feature-length animated films. Under the direction of animation master Osamu Tezuka, anti-war themes grew prevalent during the time, and this attitude greatly affected the portrayal of subjects in later works by Hayao Miyazaki. Through observing the depicting figures in striking detail, it is simple to notice that the female image in his works are full of activeness, determination, and independence, always carrying a weighty fate. What is noteworthy, Miyazaki carefully demands the neutral beauty of the images. Despite the diverse roles and personalities played by women, he constantly kept to the most original style of hand-drawn, thereby portraying the divine aura of nature and the appeal of things. Using simple line structure and natural tones reflect an ecofeminist philosophy. At the early stage of development, Miyazaki preferred to investigate the issue of human beings with nature. Japan experienced a severe labor shortage after World War II. The government therefore strongly encouraged women to enter the workforce to fill the shortage. In addition, the Japanese policy stipulated that women could get married at 13 to promote the number of newborns and push production. Consequently, in his early animated works, women were frequently depicted removing their heavy kimonos, wooden clogs, donning essentials, and coarse clothing. There was no makeup, and the hairstyles consisted of short or long hair panned back for working conveniently in the factory. It so breaks the stereotype of a beauty girl, achieving his animation works fresh and natural beauty. In Castle in the Sky, Paddo's mother was a typical woman under that background, with broad shoulders and a tall figure, wearing a dark green ankle-length coat and an apron, her hair tied in a knit and tidy ponytail, holding a pen in one hand and eyes are always sharp, who was a pure typical model. His image of women breaks through the confines of the previous image, no longer the traditional concept of gentle and sexy, but more of a blurred gender of the characters, and his fuzzy lines among genders is not the transformation of the strong male and weak female into the strong female and weak male, but a benign combination of the advantages that each male and female possess. Just as the 20th century British feminist literary critic Virginia Woolf emphasized, in each of us, 2 powers preside, 1 male, 1 female, and a great mind is androgynous. Okay, take The Valley of the Wind that published in 1984 as an example. From a female perspective, in which the main character Nausicaa is a strong and independent girl who views the natural landscape after it has been damaged by human industrial civilization, triggering the reflection of human war. In the film, the protagonist is a spiritual figure who is capable of assisting her friends in peril, enduring criticism for her views, and sacrificing her life to save her community.
よかった。たった1匹殺しただけでも何が起こるか分かりませんからな。
Also, Nausicaa dressed and behaved beyond her gender, never serving as a foil to the masculine characters. Her existence is crucial because she acted as a bridge of communication between humans and the natural world. For instance, the discourse between her and the Omu diffuses their angry attack and reveals to the viewer that the Omu symbolize nature, whereas people are violent and greedy. While Miyazaki portrayed feminism in Nausicaa primarily through the titular character's compassion as well as bravery, he also refuted the fact that this sort of character is his only representation of feminism through the antagonist, Kushana. She is the leader of the Tomekians, and her subordinate officers are all males and all submit to her. She perceives people as obstacles to her progress towards peace, and as a warrior, she is not hesitant to use force to remove them. After the public release of The Wind of the Valley was highly welcomed, this motivated Miyazaki and his companions to form Studio Ghibli Animation together, thus entering his creative growth period, from single-handedly to gradually having a team to co-create. His subsequent works show that the quality and details have a great straightforward. Then Miyazaki began the most illustrious decade of his animation career, which also was the heyday of the Japanese anime field. Over this period, his animation series contents and theme ideas transformed. The focus gradually shifted from nature and unreal space-time to humans. In terms of sketching details, Hayau's animation in the middle stage attempts to use color to deal with the texture and features of things. Compared to the previous comic style, the painting became more dynamic, emphasizing the human expression of the character. It is essential to feel the process of human growth. For instance, the straightforward and approachable narrative of My Neighbor Totoro is made for people who are infantile or yearn for their innocence. The two sisters, Sasuke and Mei, have the most childlike and optimistic attitude of any little girl. The general tone of the film is bright, and it has no turbulent plot and no human good or evil as well. There is nothing unusual about the frustrations experienced by the protagonist, such as Mei's biggest wish was to see her mom recover quickly in the hospital so that they came back to home to sleep together, or Sasuke would find grandmother crying due to her inner fear and aggravation, which all can show Miyazaki's tenderest childhood memories. Whether the harmony between humans and nature, interpersonal interactions, or the exclusive privilege of judgment and choosing rights that only men have. Miyazaki considers this to be the legacy of female stereotypes, viewing women only as mothers. Intriguingly, the character roles in Miyazaki's films are relatively unclear. He portrayed a large number of women with male personalities, as well as men with such femininity. The father of the sisters in My Neighbor Totoro took on the role of both father and mother, taking care of his two young children. In the 1990s stage of animation development, Hayao abandoned a significant storylines and concepts in favor of bland, pleasant narratives with details deserving of scrutiny. Later images of the films are loaded with details that are nearly perfect to the extreme, compared to the early stage that emphasized the entire story expression. He spent more time to study the character animation expression and humanization. More than that, due to the gradual diversification of aesthetics, Miyazaki's works attempt to engage with their style and various elements in order to create a rich and engaging fairy tale world. Like the no-face and the pigs turned from her parents in Spirited Away, and the black monsters in Howl's Moving Castle are full of imagination. The female protagonist's image has also experienced a modest transformation. From the heroic images to little girls with beautiful qualities, the female lead in the third stage was no longer a perfectionist but an ordinary person with flaws. Evidently, Miyazaki appears to mold the images of the handicapped heroine in later phases, giving greater attention to the development of female characters. This perspective seems to be more acceptable to contemporary audience, as they could find their own shadow in the main characters to emphasize with them. In Spirited Away that published in 2001, Chihiro original to save her parents by escaping the land, transformed from a petulant and willful little girl into the one who was hardworking and courageous. Serving in House Moving Castle that published in 2004, who dressed conservatively and was not confident in herself, changed from an old grandmother to her youthful appearance after finding her value by herself. And at the start of The Cat Returns, which was released in 2002, the decadent girl Haru, who wanted to escape reality and enjoy herself, became a strong girl who confronts life with optimism. Imperfections in the characters' personalities are required in realistic animation because the audience is often not impressed by characters who are portrayed as absolutely perfect. On the contrary, the shortcomings of the characters can make the audience find their own similarities, allowing them to better feel the emotions and the charm of the works. No one is perfect, and excessive perfection becomes a burden. What also resonates with people is the time to break down the boundaries between species in his works since the 21st century. In Portrayal, Miyazaki conveyed the need to protect the environment and appreciate nature via the connection between humans and fish, much as Sasuke loved Portrayal. Similarly, the emotional thread of The Cat Returns was also the relationship between the person and the cat. Anthropomorphic technique was employed excessively. In the majority of people's minds, beauty was associated with young females in the social setting of the historical period all the time. However, Hayao Miyazaki opted to undermine this notion by reversing the roles of men and women. The plot of women rescuing men frequently appears in his writings. For example, Hayao in House Moving Castle has a long-haired, handsome, and gentle appearance, with powerful magic and the ability to fly. But in truth, he was capricious and cowardly at heart. Ultimately, it was Sophie helped him realize his life's direction. Have you ever noticed the image of old women appearing in each of Miyazaki's works? Except the typical young girls portrayed by Miyazaki. Practically, an even more unusual and appealing aspect of Miyazaki's work is the number of powerful older female figures, whether they appear as protagonists or in the form of underlying protagonists. They all depicted differently and three-dimensional. These older female figures do not seem to have lost their childlike spirit because of their age. They also exude the kindness and loveliness of young girls. Hayao seems to take the opportunity to show the audience that age is not a factor that can affect the beauty. And we can see Miyazaki is a compassionate healer who strives to show everyone the beauty of women. Thus, few of the female characters in his works are entirely evil, though they can be called villains to a certain extent. They chose extreme behavior due to their own selfishness, yet the heart's substance also has a decent and charming side, causing the audience to either love or hate. So for instance, Miyazaki Hayao eventually transformed the witch in House Moving Castle into a baby to gain everyone's forgiveness. Despite the witch's initial nasty behavior, it has to say that Miyazaki's presence is kind, trying to heal everyone and let them to see the beauty of females. Taking a panoramic view of the three periods works, they aim to keep these female leads in maximum purity instead of relying on the male gaze as an innocent plot device. Hayao confronts this mechanic and is relatively useless in real life. Whether the above-mentioned childish girls, wise and bold young teenagers, or the authoritative and mature ladies inspired by her mother, are accorded major societal significance, differ the female roles from the typical shoujo. Even though the character qualities of the images have varied over time, what has remained constant is Miyazaki's vital humanistic concern for women in society.